Welcome to Game Beyond the Game. If you want to make some comments today, make sure that you type in hashtag ask for Chris. Man, this is a beautiful treat and experience. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, he is the man. So looking forward to speaking to the man. Chris, you are a man. Don't be so modest. You know, like it's funny how in public we try to pronounce or like uh, what do I want to say, like we try to be incredulous when it comes to our accolades and everything that we've accomplished in life. And
Yeah.
but when we're training, we're constantly telling ourselves like, "You are amazing. You are the best. You are incredible." But I guess whenever we say it in public, it sounds like it's coming off as being very cocky. But
Yeah.
me, be who you are, man. If you are incredible and you work that way, be incredible. So
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that reminder. We all need it.
we
We all
all
need it.
do. We all do. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Game Beyond the Game. My name is Prince Daniels Jr., and today we will be talking that talk with Chris Helwick. And today I am missing my MC, Mr. Stanley Pearson. He will not be here today, but he'll be joining us in the next ones. So I am the visionary of Game Beyond the Game and talk that talk. So I just want you guys to enjoy yourselves today. This is a new flow, and it's a one-on-one conversation with myself and Chris. So today, I want to talk to you about our guest, and I want to introduce him to you. All right. Today, we are talking to a 35-year-old professional decathlon and self-proclaimed born-again athlete. After his fifth place finish in 2012 U.S. Olympic, was that the trials? I think so. In the decathlon, Chris hung up his spikes. He was certain that his athletic career was over. However, after spending 6 years in retirement, Chris decided he had some unfinished business. So in 2018, he announced he'll be coming out of retirement with plans to make a third and final attempt at the Olympic decathlon. Chris now trains full-time at Colorado State University, where he serves as a volunteer assistant coach for the Rams track and field team. Everybody, please give your warm and great welcome to Mr. Chris Helwick. How you doing, my man?
And I'm doing great. It's awesome to be here with you, man. I'm
Nice.
excited as you are.
Say it again.
I'm as excited as you are.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Same here. I'm really excited as well, man. I'm looking forward to this interview. I've been waiting for it. I've been seeing your name on the calendar for so long, man. I'm just like, let's get to it. I'm ready to talk that talk with Chris, man. So, Chris,
Nice.
man, without further ado, I would like to just jump right into it. Where did you come from? And I'm not talking about the womb of your mother, but I mean, like, where are you from?
Yeah, I'm originally from a small town in northern Colorado called Greeley.
Okay.
I lived there for the first 18 years of my life. I was born and raised, and like I was mentioning before, I've lived in a few different places, a couple different countries, but I'm now full circle. I've come back to northern Colorado. I now live in a town called Fort Collins, and yeah, it's pretty cool to be like doing what I'm doing back in the place where it all started.
Nice. You say you lived in a bunch of different countries. What countries did you live in?
Not a bunch of different countries, but I moved around the U.S. a little bit. I lived in the Southeast, as we'll get to. But I lived in Australia for a year during 2016. Yeah, that was kind of that's a bit of a story into itself. But I was looking for a fresh start. I was looking for an opportunity to kind of clear my mind and figure out what my next path in life was. And I thought, what better way to do that than just move to Australia with a couple bags and see what happens.
Wow, that's good, man. I mean, I see that you're fearless and you just love just taking risks and just going after whatever dream or possibility that's in front of you or opportunity.
I do. I've always been a risk taker. I have a bit of a duality in that respect, I think. On the one hand, I'm pretty, I'd say I'm pretty aware of risk. You know, in some senses, I'm quite cautious.
Mm.
In some elements of my life, I'm very cautious. Like when it comes to social situations, relationships, pretty heavily introverted. So like I just know that there's a lot of caution in me when it comes to sort of that realm. But in general, I also have an appetite for risk. I like to weigh it, and then I like to act on it. So
Nice.
it served me pretty well.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. So Chris, tell me a little bit about like when did you start getting into athletics, or when did you start taking it serious and really started to understand that you knew that you could be on a national level?
Hmm. Yeah, you know, I started off in athletics from a very young age. You know, probably 4 or 5 years old, just playing mighty might soccer when I was a little kid. Um, I first got involved in track and field when I was 9.
Mm-hmm.
My dad signed me up for a summer track program, um, and did it for years. Like I did it from the age of 9 to 14. I think every summer I would go to this track program, and you know, we'd practice 4 days a week. We'd have competitions on the weekends.
Yeah.
So from a very, very young age, athletics were a big part of my life. Athletics were the center of my identity from a very young age.
Oof.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. It solidified early.
Wow.
And it was probably, well, it was, you know, late in my high school career when I felt like um, track was going to be the vehicle to take me to the next stage of athletics, the collegiate level.
Nice.
Really enjoying it. I was really excelling at it. I was learning new events. I was learning new skills, and it just seemed like I had a lot of momentum in
Nice.
in the sport. And so, yeah, I was probably 17 when I decided that, you know, this was something that I wanted to continue for quite a while.
Nice. Nice. So how many years did you spend in college?
4.
4 years. And then after that 4, what happened?
So after those 4 years, my mindset was, you know, this has been amazing. I just loved my collegiate experience. I had a lot of success. I had a lot of fun, but I felt like I hadn't quite reached my full potential.
Mm.
Um, and I certainly wasn't tired of it. I wasn't done with it. And so I wanted to continue doing it. I wanted to see how far I could go with it. And so I made the decision to devote my entire life to continuing to train for the decathlon in hopes of, you know, reaching the pinnacle of my sport, the Olympics.
Right.
So I moved from Knoxville, Tennessee to Winston-Salem, North Carolina after I graduated. And I trained at Wake Forest with an old coach friend of mine. For 5 years after school, I trained.
Wow. First, like, what are some of the key defining moments in your life? And then we'll talk about the transition.
Yeah, sure. Um, well, you know, real quick, I think one of the really big um, inflection points in my life was leaving my hometown for the first time. Like I said, I lived in Greeley, Colorado. It was a town of about 80,000 when I was growing up. I think getting away from home, living on my own, finding independence for the first time, starting to solidify my identity in different ways, being outside of kind of the family structure was big for me.
Yeah.
Another really defining moment of my life was when I suffered my biggest injury of my career in 2009.
Uh-huh.
And kept me out of the it really kept me out of competition for an entire year. It's made me wonder if I was ever going to be competing again. I mean, thankfully I was able to recover for it, but I was out for 8 months, just almost unable to jog. I mean, I could walk, and that was about all I could do. And so that was a really really difficult experience. But the one that I feel like has ultimately shaped me in a big way.
Yeah.
There's a couple more. I mean, the time period in which I changed the most, that I developed the most, that grew the most, that I feel like I really became the person that I am, was from the age of 27 to 31. And that was the 4 years directly following my athletic career.
Really?
So leaving the sport, as you know as well as anybody, leaving the sport forced me to change in some major ways. And it was the single most difficult thing I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also the best thing that I've ever done. Because it ultimately was an extremely positive thing for me.
Nice, man. So what are some of the tools and the things that you use to help get you through, those times?
Those difficult times. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, when I was injured in 2009 for 8 months, I handled it very poorly. There weren't a whole lot of things that I leveraged well. I just tell you real quickly, so for 8 months, I wasn't training. I was doing just a little bit of rehab that I could.
Yeah.
And without going into too many details, I had an injury that it just wasn't really clear what was wrong. And so I'm kind of just trying to sort out the puzzle of why I was hurt.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. Like, for 8 months, I wasn't training. I was barely working, and I'd never felt so busy in my entire life, because my mind was just filled with like anxiety of, when am I going to get better? What does this mean for the rest of my career? And so I just had these like anxious questions and feelings circulating through my body and mind. And I just allowed that. I allowed it to happen, quite frankly. So I wish I would have handled that differently. But when I retired from track and field, and I also experienced I experienced sort of oscillating waves of depression for 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
They would spike higher early on and come more frequently early on. And then as time went by, it would level out, and eventually it just kind of dissipated. But it was all, it all stemmed from not really knowing who I was and what I was about, and what my purpose in life was.
Oh.
So
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just say one other thing about it. The way that I dealt with that was that I just sort of dove right into it. I opened myself up to the way that I was feeling and what I was thinking. I will tell you, I spent hundreds of hours by myself in nature. And I'm not sure that I can fully explain how or why this was so effective, but spending time in nature and like watching how nature changes throughout the seasons and how it is cyclical. I would go out and look at the same things day after day after day, and I began to understand how the same things could look different every day. And over time, this really put me in touch with, like, honestly, my place in the universe. Like, how was I connected to nature? And that was really cathartic for me.
Wow. You're speaking my language, man. I'm like, this is tranquility at its finest.
Yeah.
Okay. So for our audience, they probably don't know what a decathlon is. Can you please explain to people, what is a decathlon?
Yes. Yes. Good question. So a decathlon is a track and field event, but it's really 10 track and field events rolled into one.
10?
10
Wow.
track and field events,
Okay.
decathlon. It happens over the course of 2 days. You compete
Okay.
in 5 events each day,
Uh-huh.
always in the same order. And that order is the 100-meter dash,
Okay.
long jump, shot put, high jump, 400. Day two, you come back and you run the 110-meter high hurdles,
Okay.
discus, pole vault, javelin, and 1500.
Ooh. How do you prepare for all of that?
Oh my gosh, that's a fantastic question. It's how do you prepare for that? You've you never you're as a decathlete, you're never going to master any of these events. If you're a single event athlete, you are nearing perfection in your events. And I'm afraid for decathletes, it's just not quite like that. You spend as much time as you can in the technical events.
Right.
You train your body in such a way that it's capable of dealing with all the stresses of the events.
All right.
And you just get ready for a doozy, and you can only do like 2, 3, maybe 4 of these a year.
Wow. How much time do you have in between each event after just finished competing?
A standard amount of time is 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
That's
And you
pretty
have
good.
to get right back to it.
That's right, and that includes your warm up for the next event. So you really just you finish an event, you gather your stuff, and you walk to the next one, and you start getting ready for it.
Ooh. Wow. So your training days or your training weeks. So like on Monday, do you practice discus, and on Tuesday do you practice track and field, and on Wednesday do you practice javelin, etc. Like how do you train for all of this?
Yes, yes. So in terms of technical events, meaning things outside of just running, like the field events,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we usually try to practice 2 of these a day.
Ooh.
It's not to say that you have to do an extensive training session with each event, but
Right.
you should do something because you want to keep these skills fresh in your mind and in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if you let too much time pass in between practicing these things,
Yeah.
your nervous system is going to kind of lose the rhythm. So
Uh-huh.
we do try to touch the technique pretty often,
Uh-huh.
and then you want to train your energy systems throughout the week. So you've got like flat out acceleration, like running a 40.
Mm-hmm.
Like how fast can you go from 0 to maximum speed?
Right.
And then you're training top end speed. How long can you sustain your top speed? And then you also train speed endurance, which is like a 400, and then endurance, the 1500, which is close to a mile.
Wow.
So you've got to touch each of those energy systems throughout the week.
Nice. Wow. That's awesome. I never really heard it from that stance. About the energy, about like being able to train your energy and having that rhythm so you can get up and practice, keep going. Because again, I'm still trying to figure out how do you simulate 30 minutes in between. And you said you can only do those like four times a year. So is there ever a time where well, I guess if you enter some track meets, you come in and you're like, you do all 10 events, and then after that, you need to rest your body, and then you probably train. What you take a month off, 2 weeks off?
Yeah, but I probably take 10 days to 2 weeks off.
What? And then put your body back through that strain again?
Well, and that's just to get going in training again.
Wow.
I would probably want to give 3 to 4 weeks minimum between decathlons. But I will tell you, as decathletes, we do a lot of competing in single events throughout the year as well. So it's not like we only do 3 or 4 decathlons. We're also doing a bunch of track meets where we're just, say, running hurdles and pole vaulting
Okay.
as just sort of a tune-up for a decathlon.
Nice. So what made you pick decathlon versus like one of the track and field events? You know, was it a challenge? Was it like a mentor, somebody that pushed you? What was it?
It was all that. I had a high school track coach who's really influential on me. Um, he was a collegiate decathlete himself at the University of New Mexico. He was just a lifelong lover of track and field.
Yeah.
And even though there was no decathlon in high school in Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
always looking for potential decathlon talent.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he saw me, excelling in 3 or 4 different events in high school, like I started off as just a high jumper. That's what I love to do.
Uh-huh.
But I eventually got kind of bored with it and wanted to do some other things. So I tried hurdling, I tried long jumping. I was on a 4x4. And I was doing well with these things. I was picking up the techniques pretty quickly. And I remember the day my coach, his name was Marty Nybauer, he came up to me. He's like, Chris, the way that you're picking up on all these new events, like, I think you might have the potential to be a really great decathlete. And I said, wow, that's cool. What is a decathlete? I had no idea. I mean, I've been running track since I was 9 years old. I was shocked that there was a track and field event I'd never heard of before.
Wow.
But it sounded exciting to me, and he really mentored me into becoming a decathlete. He helped me get into some decathlons in high school that were just outside of the typical high school season.
Right.
Precisely what helped me get recruited by colleges. So I owe a lot of my success to that guy.
So it was 2012, and you were competing for trials, right?
That's right. I've competed in 2 Olympic trials in 2008 and 2012. 2008, I was 23, and then in 2012, I was 27. So at the end of 2011, I had to have a serious heart-to-heart with myself. I was like, the plan had always been to train through 2012. That's an Olympic year. That's what track and field athletes live for. And so in the end, I thought about it for a few weeks, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to end my athletic career on this note.
Right.
I want to do something more. I mean, even if I don't improve in terms of score, like I want to end in a better headspace, better relationship with my coach. Like I want to be more pleased with how I approached the year, because honestly, my attitude had been souring. I was just not really fun to be around, that sort of thing.
Why was that?
Why was that? It's
Yeah.
because I was so irritated at my lack of achievement.
Right.
That's 100% what it was. So I'll tell you this. I mean, not to open too much of a can of worms, but one of the reasons why my performance flattened was because I became so obsessed with reaching that next height of achievement, getting that next, hit of success, that next hit of validation. I just wanted to keep moving up and up and up in terms of the ladder of success until I reached the pinnacle of the Olympic Games, which I thought, that's when you've really arrived. And so the longer it went on that I wasn't realizing these achievements, the longer that I wasn't performing the way that I wanted to be, the less happy of a person I became.
Wow.
And then it just it was a vicious cycle, because then I would become even more obsessed with getting better. And the longer it went on, and my patience shrank, and the longer it went on, I just became, less fun to be around. So I sort of wedged myself into a corner. But I will tell you, in 2012, after I had that heart-to-heart with myself, my attitude improved in 2012. I think it really helped that I knew that was going to be the end of the road for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, kind of had a a glimmer of appreciation for what I was doing. I didn't totally shape up, but
Okay.
it definitely helped that I knew that was going to be the end of the road. And so I had a much better year from a mental standpoint, and I performed okay. Nothing great, but I
Okay.
finished on a respectable note.
Right.
And so when it was all over, I was totally fine to walk away from it. I was ready to walk away from it.
That's good, man. So in 2012, you hang it up, and now somewhere in between 2012 and now, you decided that you wanted to start training again. And they call you a born again athlete. Is that the term? The born again athlete? No,
So
there's only one other person that I know that's a born again. Now this I'm just playing, but yes. So now that you're out and you're sitting down with yourself and you're just in this space. You're in retirement. It's real comfortable being in retirement. Might I say? But I had a chance to read your biography, and you mentioned in there you had how you began to study, you know, some of your body parts. You started realizing someone had pointed out to you that you had an awkward gait in the way that you walk, and I wanted to know, like, what was it at that moment when someone pointed that out to you that you said, hey, if I correct this gait, maybe I could, decide I might want to just jump back into track and field. Like, what went on through your head when you were retired, and then what went on through your head when you said, you know what am I doing sitting down here? Like, let's go. Like, it's time to win a gold medal.
yeah. It's really funny because you're absolutely right. Somebody made a comment about the way I walked, and it sparked this investigation. It was really a big rabbit hole that I fell down. But the funniest thing was is that this comment wasn't new. It was the same sort of comment that I'd been hearing ever since I was a little kid in elementary school. I it's not that I was like teased for it all my life, but I just heard these comments like, you know, is it doesn't Chris have kind of a funny walk? Like, isn't it kind of funny how he walks, or he like bobs up and down when he walks? And I kind of had this like springy, sort of on your toes sort
Right.
of gait. But the thing was, when I was growing up, I didn't think for 2 seconds about these comments. Like, they just rolled right off me. I just didn't even consider them. I think the reason was that I was so wrapped up in athletics, and I was quite um, a successful athlete when I was young,
Mhm.
that, the way that I walked, it was just so inconsequential. Like, I just didn't care.
Right. Mhm.
But for whatever reason, when I was 30 years old, 3 years out, 3 years into retirement, 3 years completely away from track and field or anything competitive, for whatever reason, that comment stuck in my mind. And I was like, now what is not just this guy seeing, but what is everybody seeing in the way that I walk that I can't feel? Because walking just felt as natural as could be to me. I didn't really get what people were talking about.
Right.
And so this happened when I was at a wedding it was actually in Santa Cruz, California, with a big group of friends, and we were just walking home from the bar one night, and somebody made this comment about the way I walked, and I went home after that trip, and I just couldn't get it out of my mind. Like, I had a habit of going on an evening walk after work every evening,
Hmm.
and usually it was a time to just, like I said, um, convene with nature, clear my mind. I'm a processor, so it was just a time to process all the events of the day. But this question followed me on these walks at that time, and I just began sinking my awareness into my body as I walked. I mean, it's really simple as that. It was just, okay, if you don't, it's like, Chris, if you don't understand what is peculiar about the way that you walk? Well, then let's look at how you walk and figure it out. And so, at this time, I didn't know much about meditation. Like, it was a very new idea to me. It's kind of maybe dabbling in it a little bit, but I just thought, if you want to figure out the way you walk, then let's just watch. And so I would go on these walks and just over and over and over again, just observe what was moving, what muscles in my body were working, what muscles weren't working, what was the timing and the sequence of each leg swing, all these little things. And I began to get a much better sense of how my body moved and also how my body felt as it moved. It was so interesting. I imagine, just based on our previous conversation, you would grasp this entirely, but like, once I started really looking at the inner landscape of my body, it just opened up to me. It became this vast area with so much detail and intricacy. And it was like, once I started into that investigation, it had me. Like, I became hooked, and it became this really wonderful place to explore. And so that was, I'm starting to maybe lose your original question, but that was the essence of what kicked this all off.
Well, man, I know you mentioned it for yourself. You didn't know about meditation, but a lot of athletes don't know about meditation. But it is the key to creating the ultimate athlete that you want to be, become the best version of yourself. I have a book coming out called Mindfulness for the Ultimate Athlete, Mastering the Balance Between Your Power and Peace. And I can't wait to get you a copy of it, which is completely awesome, man. So you started working on fixing your gait, and then what did you discover, and what are you doing now that you did differently besides the meditation?
Yeah. So I'll tell you a story about how this really kicked into high gear for me. And I would say it was really the point where I began taking the idea of getting back into athletics seriously. It was almost a year into this practice of, what I now call mindful movement or mindful walking meditation. You could certainly call it that.
Right.
So about a year into it, I'm starting to get a really good sense of how my body moves naturally and what might be inefficient about it. And I'm starting to get into the mode of trying to correct some of the inefficiencies about how I move. I noticed that from right to left, there were some asymmetries. One side of my body was doing a lot more work than the other side. And I remember this one day, like, very vividly, because this was when things really changed for me. I'd been onto this notion that my left hip was doing a lot more work than my right hip as I walked. I could just feel it being far more engaged in the right. And so for a few days, I'm trying to willfully correct this imbalance. I'm trying to, turn on my right hip. I'm trying to get it, come on, get in gear, catch up with the left, be an equal partner here. And I just couldn't do it. I mean, for as much as I tried and for as good as I was at recognizing when my body was working well and when it wasn't, I just wasn't able to create this. And so I don't know where I came up with this idea. I must have heard it somewhere, but I don't really remember. But I thought, okay, if I can't willfully make my body adjust in the way that I want it to, maybe I'll just ask it to make the adjustment and see what happens. I mean, like, I'm out of ideas here and I'm getting kind of frustrated. So let's just try this. So I'm walking down the street and I get into just a nice walking rhythm, and I say out loud, and I'm speaking directly to my physicality. I say, I want my hips to work equally as I walk. And instantly and spontaneously, I feel an array of contractions on my right side, going up my back, into my trap, through my glutes, and it creates spontaneously the adjustments that I was hoping for. And it was the most incredible, it was the most incredible moment in my, I think in my entire life. I'm not kidding. Not exaggerating. Because what it showed me right there was that there is an intelligence within our bodies that is so much greater than our thinking mind that we're usually not aware of. And I think the vast majority of athletes don't appreciate that intelligence that's inside of them. But it showed itself to me right there. And from that moment on, I mean, it was a gradual thing, but what I did was I formed a partnership with this intelligence, and I demoted I demoted my thinking mind. You know, it was the king of the palace, right? I used to be, I'll tell you this, when in my previous career as an athlete, this is the biggest difference between then and now. My previous career, I was an operator of my body. My body was just a machine that I used to perform athletic movements. And then after this moment, this experience, I realized I am my body. It was the mind-body connection. It really showed itself to me. It's not I'm doing the movement, it's I am the movement. And so from that point on, I mean, that was 5 years ago, but I've spent the last 5 years really trying to develop that understanding. So, yeah.
That is so awesome. I'm over here like, oh, I'm like, I don't want to close it out because that is it. I mean, what you're talking about is what other athletes, you know, wish that they could just get a glimpse of. What you're describing is exactly you unfolding and blossoming. What are some of the things that you wish you knew now that you didn't know in your early athletic career, that you would tell your younger self?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I would say this. The thing that I would tell my younger self first and foremost is diversify your identity. You know, it's like it doesn't mean you have to care less about athletics. It doesn't mean you have to try less or give or not give your whole self to it. But it just means that you expand your sense of who you are, because you know everybody really does have a very diverse identity. But you know, it's like, do we accept that or not? I mean, we put all of our, a lot of times athletes, especially young, talented, and ambitious athletes, put all of their eggs into that one basket. And I think that it's usually a recipe for disaster.
Oh, yeah.
That would be number one.
Wow.
Number two, from a more practical standpoint, would be to make sure that your body is properly put together. It's, you know, there's lots of things that I do now that, you know, beyond mindful movement, that keep me in good biomechanical order. Just like you were talking about, you felt like your core was a weak point in your biomechanics, and once you touched up on your core, and you got involved in the process of sprinting, you became so much faster. And when I was younger, it was just about like, how hard are you willing to work? How many reps are you willing to put in? How much time are you willing to put in? It was kind of unsophisticated. And I would say, you know, you got to look at the machinery, make sure that the machinery is working optimally, and you're not just putting rocket fuel in it and hoping for the best.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. All right. So last thing, you mentioned calling on your body and working with your body and understanding the connection between mind and body. And also you had a chance to see a miracle, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, so now now I understand why they call you the born again athlete. You're doing miracles, man. You're asking your body for to turn on this intelligence, the supreme intelligence that we're all connected to.
Yes.
So 2021 Olympics.
2021. That's right.
2021. So what are the latest details? Do you know?
Yeah. So in the world of track and field, I know those details.
Uh-huh.
The Olympic trials, that's the gateway to the Olympics, every athlete's got to go through, are exactly 1 year postponed.
Okay.
So next June, like the second half of June, it's about a 2-week, festival essentially. In Eugene, Oregon, will be the Olympic trials, and so that'll really be the centerpiece of the year for me. And then if I qualify, it'll be, I think the Olympics were postponed exactly a year too. So it's about 6 weeks later.
Chris, let me stop you. Okay.
Sure.
You said something that debilitated your progression. You said if. We don't use if, man. We don't use if, baby. You're gonna be you are the ultimate athlete when you qualify. When you qualify, man, because you are going to be there. I already know, man. But I love when you say I am my body. We just had a comment. Someone said that I am my body. Yes, I am my body. I am my thoughts. All of the above. So like I'm looking forward to seeing you compete in the 2021 Olympics, man. I would definitely love to interview more of you. We got to have a part 2. So we will be seeing you in the 2021 Olympics. And please tell our audience how can they find you, or where can they go to find you?
Yeah. The best place would be to my website. It's chrishelwick.com. I also post semi-regularly on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me. Really doing my best. Instagram handle is what the Helwick, separated by periods.
So. What the Helwick? Okay. And lastly, thank you for joining us. It was an honor. Everyone, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page at Game Beyond the Game. Make sure that you look at the link in below. Chris, we look forward to seeing more of you. Man, congratulations. You are going to be there. I believe in the magic of believing. And now that you're on this meditation, tranquil, Zen movement, man, where you are the mindfulness athlete, man, take that with you. Continue to keep practicing meditation. Continue to keep going out to nature. Continue to keep doing everything that you do, because eventually, when you have it fixated in your mind, your body, and your spirit, you enter the zone. And when you enter the zone, nothing can stop you, man.
I love it.
So keep going, brother, and I look forward to everything else, and I look forward to speaking to you soon, okay?
Absolutely. It was an honor to speak with you as well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I think we need to practice meditation together, man. That'll be awesome to share with you some of the stuff that I learned at the monastery when I was there, man.
That would be phenomenal.
Yeah. So that's awesome, man. So, and please, okay, yeah. So that's it, my brother. Have a good one, okay?
Cool.
Sounds
Thanks, man.
good. Thank you.